13, verses 34 and 35, come these words. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. I realize that today is Mother's Day, and I suppose that love is a good topic to talk about on Mother's Day, because I don't know of anything that represents the heart of God more than the heart of a mother. Moms sacrifice more than anybody I know. And God has given so much for us. And each of us, if we've had certainly a godly mother, we know all about the heart of a mother. And if you've had the privilege of having a godly mother, you certainly have been a blessed individual. Nothing shows the heart of God more than a mother's love. No doubt that's why God made mothers. And on this Mother's Day, we want to speak on the subject of love. Perhaps you have seen some of the old Bill Cosby shows that say, kids say the darndest things. He had one on love, and this is what some of them said. One of the questions were asked, what do most people do on a date? Mike, age 10, said, on the first date, they just tell each other lies. And that usually gets them interested enough for a second date. When asked, when is it okay to kiss someone? Jim, age 10, says, you should never kiss a girl unless you have enough bucks to buy her a big ring and her own VCR, because she'll want to have videos of the wedding. Kelly, age 9, has her own ideas on this subject. She says, never kiss in front of other people. It's a big embarrassing thing if anybody sees you. But if nobody sees you, I might be willing to try it with a handsome boy for just a few hours. The great debate. The great debate. Is it better to be single or married? Well, Lynette, age 9, says, it is better for girls to be single, but not for boys. Boys need someone to clean up after them. Considering why lovers often hold hands, Dave, age 8, says, they want to make sure their rings don't fall off because they paid good money for them. I'd say these kids have a lot to learn, don't they? But nonetheless, we can never overemphasize the importance of love, for that is what God is all about. God is about love. John 3:16 says, a verse that we have all memorized from those early Sunday school days, for God so loved the world. You see, God is about love. Jesus said, a new command I give you, love one another. He didn't say, if you want to, you can love one another. He didn't say, if you feel like it, love one another. He said, it's a new command. You have to love one another. And just for the record, I want you to know right offhand, if you don't have love in your heart for everyone, then you have a problem. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to like everybody, okay? But we certainly have to love everybody. We have to care about people. We talked a little bit about that in our Sunday school hour this morning. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. And why? Because he says, by this all men will know that you are my disciples. I was sharing it with the Wednesday night group this past Wednesday, the youth group, and I was telling them, we were talking about Christianity, and I said, what is it to be a Christian? What sets Christianity apart from all other religions? Isn't it the fact that as a Christian we are to be Christ-likeness? We are to be like Christ. Are you like Christ every day, 24/7? Or are you just like Christ on Sunday when you come to church and you're sitting in a pew? If that's the case, then you've got a problem. You see, Christianity is something that it's not like a pair of pants that we put on and take off. Christianity is a change that takes place within the heart. And we should be representing Christ every moment of every day. In fact, it ought to just flow out of us. It ought to just flow out. I'm a Christian. Not just because I want to be a Christian, but because Christ has changed me internally. We have this myth in our culture that love comes naturally. And that is so far from the truth. Love does not come naturally. Love is something that has to be nurtured. It has to be disciplined. It has to be acted upon. Ask a mother when she has to get up at 3 o'clock of the morning to change her baby or to feed her baby. Do you love it? No. A lot of times moms will say, it's your turn. Huh? It's your turn. I got up an hour ago. You now get up. It's your turn. But when we do it because, why? Because, we love that child. And it's a discipline. It's an act. And we do it because it's right. Jesus said, a new command I give you, love one another. Is it going to come naturally? No, it doesn't. When somebody stabs you in the back, do you say, great, I loved it, do it again? No, it hurts. We're disappointed. But you know what Jesus said? Jesus said, you love them. You have to love them. We don't say, God, I love everybody else but that person. It doesn't work like that. Did Jesus love being spit at? Did he love being beaten? Did he love a crown of thorns placed upon his brow? Did he love being nailed to an old rugged cross? Did he love hanging there for everyone to watch? No. But what did he say? He said, Father, forgive them. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. And why did he do that? How could he do that? The only way he could do it was because he loved them. He didn't love perhaps what was happening to him. He didn't love what he was going through. He certainly didn't love the pain. But he did it because of love. Moms, I know that you do what you do because of love. But you see, we're to love everyone. Jesus said it's a new command. Love. You know, it's not giving everything to a child that makes a child know that we love them. In fact, they had done a survey some time ago. And the question was to teenagers, if you could have anything you want from your parents, what would it be? Some people would have thought, well, man, if I could get a new car, or if I could get, $100, or if I could get this, whatever. But no, you know what the number one answer was? The number one answer was, if I could get mom and dad to spend time with me. If I could just get them to spend time with me. You see, people need love more than they need anything else. And by spending time, that's giving love. Driving bus the last couple of months have been a real eye-opener to me. Because these kids get on the bus and they got all these modern gadgets, and I don't even know what all they are anymore, I kept up as far as the cell phone goes. After that, they've kind of lost me, the texting and all that kind of stuff. That's, I'm not into that stuff. I tell my kids, look, you want my attention, call me, My phone has a ring on it. Call me, I'll answer it, and we can talk. Don't text me. Another thing, I'm too tight to pay for that additional thing, whatever. But hey, call me, okay? But these kids get on the bus, and they got these headphones in, and they're kind of, early in the morning, they're not bopping yet, okay? They start to bop, by late afternoon, I guess, okay? But they got these headphones on, and I'm assuming they're listening to music or something. But the thing that really gets my attention is the fact that they get on the bus, and I try to be upbeat. I try to say good morning, or at least recognize them. They don't even look at you. They get on the bus, their heads are down, and if they do happen to put their head up, I notice that most of them don't smile. They don't smile. They don't talk to each other. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed at that. And I think, man, what's going on in their hearts? Are they that cold that they don't even look at you and don't acknowledge you and don't smile? Very seldom do you see them smile. Every now and then, I may have one or two. I have gotten a couple of them to grunt at me now, okay? They get on the bus, I say good morning, as they go by, But that's kind of the extent of it. And I sit there wondering, I wonder, what kind of a family life do they have? What's going on in their lives, in their hearts? And I think, man, this is our future. This is our future. I pick up the high school kids first, take them to school, then I go get the elementary kids. The elementary kids, it's a whole new story, okay? You can't shut them up, You don't want to say good morning to them. You're afraid what they're going to say if you say good morning to them. But I've sat thinking, man, in a few years, these kids are going to high school, and man, if they're going to be like them high schoolers are now, we're in trouble. So, we need to win these kids while they're young. We need to let them know that they're loved. We care about them. It's so important. Jesus told us to love. Love is a distinguishing characteristic of a Christian. He said, by this, all men will know that you are my disciples. You see, when we go out and we love people, when we go out and we care about people, people are going to say, you're different. Why are you so different? Why do you care about me? Why are you so sweet? Why are you so kind? Hey, anybody ever get money back and it's not the right amount of money, or they give you too much at the cash register and you take it back and they kind of look at you like, man, you're crazy. You know, why would you do something like that? It's because Jesus did something in here, isn't it? Jesus said, by your love, by your actions, people will know that you're my disciples. Out of the Guidepost comes this story by Shirley Terry, entitled Mrs. Anderson's Roses. Shirley tells about a neighbor who had lost her husband. She had had a mini stroke, and by all appearances, she didn't have a friend in the world. No one went to visit her, at least that Shirley knew about. And Shirley, she just began to have a burden for her neighbor and thought, what can I do to brighten up my neighbor's day? What can I do to be a friend to her? And the idea came to make Mrs. Anderson a plate of cookies. And so she made Mrs. Anderson a plate of chocolate chip cookies, and she took them over to her. And when she knocked on the door, she noticed everything was dark inside. Mrs. Anderson finally came to the door, but she opened the door up just a crack. And Shirley said, Mrs. Anderson, she said, I'm your neighbor right down the street here. And she said, I made you a plate of cookies. I thought maybe you would like some cookies. And Mrs. Anderson opened the door just enough to take the plate of cookies and said thank you and closed the door. A couple days later, Shirley did something else. And this time she said she made a little note to put with the cookies. And she said, Mrs. Anderson, I loved your roses. And she knocked on the door, and Mrs. Anderson just opened it a crack, and she said, Mrs. Anderson, I made you some more cookies. She said, I thought maybe you'd like these. So she handed them to her, and Mrs. Anderson opened the door just enough to get the plate of cookies. But every few days, she said, I made something, whether it was a loaf of bread or whether it was something, had some leftovers or whatever. And she said, I took it over to Mrs. Anderson. I always left a note, liked this or liked that, or been praying for you, or just whatever. And she said she noticed that every time she'd go, Mrs. Anderson would open the door up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, until finally, when she'd knock on the door, Mrs. Anderson would come and open the door wide open. And then it was, well, can you come in? She said she started inviting me into her house, and she said, in no time at all, I was sharing with Mrs. Anderson face to face. I was sitting in her home, and we became good friends. And she said, love won. Love won. And I want to tell you something. Love is one of the greatest things that God has given us. But love is a choice. Love is an action. Love is a discipline that we have to do. But what a tool it is to win someone to Jesus by loving them, caring for them. Love is Christ's most important powerful weapon in the battle against the forces of darkness and despair. Jesus said, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. You must love one another. It's not a choice. You must, he says. You must love one another. Bill Farrow, his aunt had approached him one day back in 1977 about housing a family of Vietnamese that had come to the States, and they needed a place to stay. They were refugees. And at first, he didn't want to do it. And Bill's aunt kept insisting and encouraging him and telling him, look, you've got this big farmhouse and you've got so much work to do. And she said, they'll help you do some of the work. And she said, all you have to do is give them a place to stay and kind of take care of them a little bit. She didn't know, but Bill was in the Vietnamese War, and he hated the Vietnamese. Hated them. And finally he had this idea, okay, I'll let them come live with me, and I'll treat them like dirt, and I'll make them do all kinds of work, and I'll work them half to death. And so finally he consented to his aunt and said, okay, he said, I'll take a family. And so they set him up with this family. And he worked them from daylight to dark. He worked them. Gave them all kinds of tasks to do. Just dirty work to do. And they did it without griping and complaining. In fact, they did it with a smile on their faces. And they thanked him for allowing them to stay at his house. And in a few months, that family had to leave, and another family would come. And he'd treat them the same way, as mean and as dirty as dirt. But they were the same way. They were kind, and they were gracious, and they thanked him, and they stayed a few months, and they would leave. And another family would come. And it was one family after another family. And finally, after a couple of years, it was his birthday. And nobody celebrated his birthday. For years, no one ever celebrated his birthday. But on this particular birthday, he started getting cards. He started getting cards from all of these Vietnamese families that he had housed and he had worked from sun up to sundown. And they thanked him. Thanked him for allowing him to open their house so they could come and they could stay. And finally, he got this one Vietnamese family in there, and one of the Vietnamese said to him, Bill, he said, we've been talking with some of the other families that have come, and they've said you're such a nice guy, but you never smile. You never smile. You're always so sad. And he said, we feel bad about that. He said, never once did they complain that I worked them from sun up to sundown. And he said, every single family was kind and gracious. And he said, when it was my birthday, they all sent me a birthday card. And he said, I had housed over the years some 40-some families. And not a single one of them have ever stabbed me in the back, taken from me, done me wrong. And he said, all I've ever done was treat them like dirt. And he said, I'd rather have a Vietnamese family than anybody else staying with me. What made the difference? Love. Love. Respect. Gratitude. You see, my friends, love wins every time. Love wins every time. And I know that in life there are times when people do us dirty. There are times when people have disappointed us over and over and over again. But we have to keep forgiving over and over and over again. We have to keep loving. You see, love is a choice that we have to choose. Jesus said, a new command I give. Love. Love one another as He has loved us. No one has suffered more than Jesus. but he forgave. He willfully gave his life. It was a choice. It was an act that he had done, that we could have the greatest gift of all, the gift of eternal life. What is that in comparison to what you've gone through, to what you've put up with, to the disappointments that you've had in life? Whether it was a child who totally rebelled and didn't want anything to do with you anymore, or somebody else that had stabbed you in the back over something that maybe they shouldn't have done. Jesus said, love. And love is a choice. And so today, if there is animosity in your heart, if there is bitterness, if there is resentment, if there is someone who has done you wrong, hey, let's put it under the blood. Let's choose to love. Let's act upon that action. Will you stand with me? Let's pray. Father, I thank you for the day. I thank you for the mothers that are here. I thank you for the truth of your word. Lord, you tell us it's a command. It's not a choice, but it's a command that you have given us. You didn't say to love if you want to love, but you said, a new command I give. Love one another. And Father, I pray that you would help us on our journey. Lord, I realize that within many churches across our land today, there are people who fill a pew that are angry. There's bitterness. There's animosity within their hearts. And there's certainly people that they do not love. But Father, you tell us it's not a choice that we have. We are to love. We are supposed to love each and every one. In fact, you went as far as to say to love your enemies. Oh God, help us to love even our enemies. You have certainly showed us by example. Help us to be the Christian. Help us to live like Christ the way that you would have us to. And Father, for all that you do in our hearts and in our lives, we'll give you the praise. Bless this day, especially to our mothers. Encourage and strengthen each one that's here today. And Father, for all that you do, we'll praise your name. Amen. You are dismissed, and may God bless you.
Beauty that made this heart adore you, hope of a life.